And here's another exciting episode of Colonel Ike's Garage. So see if you enjoy this. If you do, hit a like and we'll go on from there. Thank you. Okay, so today I'm going to talk to you about a problem that people have been asking me about recently. They get an M151 engine and it will not turn over. So they say, okay, put Marvel Mystery Oil in it, just squirt oil in it, force it over, take the plugs out, all of that. I'm going to show you what the danger of doing that sort of stuff is to an engine that I have here. First off, this is a typical engine like you find in a barn or at somebody's house when you get an extra engine. And usually they have taken the carburetor off. So you have this big gaping hole here. Then they've taken the spark plugs out, so you have little holes where the spark plugs go. Now, frequently they'll have removed the flywheel. If you don't remove the flywheel, here's what you get. The flywheel does not have oil on the surface of it, so as you can see, it rusts up really bad. This is an engine that I tore down yesterday, and it had the same issues. It had no carburetor on it over here. It had a broken head bolt. Exhaust manifold bolt, which I drilled out and put a Healy coil in to replace it, which you can fix the heads on it. I did that because we're going to have this head redone. It's not a bad head. And then looked at the engine, and it's a 1971 contract, so it looked decent. The oil pan was not rusted out. It was rusty, but not rusted through anywhere. But the flywheel was rusty in back. That means the flywheel had been on it, so I took it off, cleaned it up. I pressure washed the vehicle, the whole piece, and then I started working on it. Now, the first thing I did was I'm going to flip the camera over here and show you the bottom of the engine. So I'll do that next. When I took the bottom off of it, there was some oil left in it. There was no water. There's no rust underneath the shafts inside or the pistons or anything like that. There was oil in the oil filter, that's the strainer in the bottom. Everything looked okay from here, so I thought maybe we're going to be lucky. First thing I've done here is I took off the rocker arm and pulled all the head bolts out, and at that point I lifted it off and set it down, and now we got to look at what we've got inside. This cylinder was completely filled with flakes of rust and junk. If you look close, you can see it's badly pitted, and there is no salvaging this. That's the reason this one will not turn. You can see this one's got some rust in it too. But the problem is when you have the carburetor off and the valves are on, one or two of the valves may be open. If they're open, it's going to have humid air going in, and if you have the spark plugs out on the other side, which you can't see under there right now, but what happens is you get a flow of air through at least that cylinder, and when you do it, moisture builds up in there when the temperature changes on the engine by sitting overnight, cold temperature, warms the next day, and you've got a flow of air through it. It condenses when this gets cooler, drops down inside, next day it repeats itself. For that reason, if you've got an engine like this one that will not turn over, and you attempt to put Marvel Mystery Oil or something else in it and then use it, you're going to end up wasting a whole lot of time, because that'll fire up if you loosen it up, if you get it to turn, and it'll struggle and it'll just eat itself alive inside, and you'll lose all of the other parts like the crankshaft, the camshaft, the oil pump, everything else will just fall to pieces inside it when the chips of metal start falling in there from that. So highly recommend that if your engine won't turn over, you make sure that your car is in neutral and that it will roll. That will tell you that it's the transmission's not connected to it. Pull the spark plugs, and once you do that, attempt to turn the engine over by hand. If it won't turn over by hand, I suggest you start looking for another engine. That's all I got on this.